Well, good morning, everybody. It's Jo here, dietitian from Everyday Nutrition. It's only just on 9 o'clock here in Melbourne. I will just give it a few minutes to see if anybody's going to come today. I hope everybody's well. I want to say a really warm welcome. We've had a few new people join us over the last couple of weeks. I want to say welcome. I hope you enjoy it here. Those of you who just arrived, have a look around the group, see that you'll see the discussion thread where we sort of discuss things that are going on. If you have any questions or anything along the way, or you just want to talk about it, or if you want to share or anything at all like that. So we love hearing how people are going. We love discussion. That's what we're here for. So feel free at any time to start a thread, start a comment, make a post and get a discussion started. If you have a look through the units section, that's where you're going to find the majority of the resources and information for working through your FODMAP journey. The initial unit 1, that's a bit of legal stuff, you know, terms and conditions, that sort of thing to keep the lawyers happy. Then unit 2 is all about the elimination phase. Units 3 and 4 are all about the challenge phase. And then after that, we have a unit for each group of FODMAP. So you'll find a fructose unit, a lactose unit, you'll find a unit for onion and garlic, and so on. Right down at the end, you'll find a whole lot of, in Unit 14, there's a whole lot of low FODMAP recipes, and there's also, there's low FODMAP meal plans and things like that in there as well. So have a work through those units and see where you're up to. If you want to at any stage, if you want to move ahead with your challenges and you want to sort of keep going forward on your own, if you find that you're sort of ahead of the group, then feel free obviously to work your way forward. If you're a little bit behind us as well, that doesn't matter either. So I always say that it's probably more important to be slow, steady and methodical with these challenges. That's the way you're going to get the majority of the information. So people that I see rushing their challenges, they're often the ones that start getting confusing results and things don't always start making sense. So slow and methodical. We try every 2 weeks to introduce a challenge. So you'll find that every fortnight there will be a Facebook Live just like this one, and we will introduce a new challenge, and that will sort of talk about it a little bit, what the FODMAP is, what it means, how it works, why it's a FODMAP, that sort of stuff, and then how to challenge that. So that's kind of how the format runs. But of course, and everybody, Mani and I are here, we want to provide a resource that's really useful for you and is workable and doable for you. So if there's anything that you're not getting that you would like to get, or anything that you find there's too much focus on, you like more less focus on that and more on something else, please tell us. So that's what we're here for. We want this to work for you. So yeah, anyway, without much further ado, so it's 1 week till Christmas. I see we've got a few people with us. Hi Ashley, hi Lorraine, hi Tracy, welcome. As you can see, it's finally summer here in Melbourne. I think I spent the weekend in my big coat because it was only 14 degrees, and today we're headed up for 30 degrees, so I'm going to enjoy the summer while it lasts. A week out from Christmas. This is what I wanted to talk about today. You would have seen in the email that I sent out a couple of days ago. I want to talk about surviving Christmas, managing that going out. So I'm not actually going to launch a challenge today. Like I said, if you want to keep going with challenges, absolutely go into the unit section and work your way through. But I'm assuming that the majority of us are kind of going to put challenges a little bit on hold for the next week or two while we sort of enjoy that sort of holiday festival type season. And what I wanted to do is give you guys some information and a few tips and things of how to manage that within the context of having IBS and within the context of being on a low FODMAP diet. I think that first of all, FODMAPs isn't a game of perfect, but often having a plan to go into these events, it's 90% of the battle. So having an idea of what you're planning, what you're going to do, how you're going to address it, that can make a really big difference to how you feel going into the event and your confidence going into the event. But there are also strategies that we can use as well, that if you do choose to eat a high FODMAP food, we can improve the likelihood that you'll actually get away with it, or symptoms might be minimal rather than major. So I wanted to sort of talk about that a little bit today. The first thing I want to say, so there's actually, if we look over the whole year, there's actually only about 10 holidays in a year. The majority of the year, obviously, you're following a low FODMAP diet that hopefully at some point will be personalised for you. Obviously, the challenge phase, what we're working through at the moment, is telling us how to personalise that. But if we say for the majority of the year, you've got your normal eating pattern, which takes into consideration FODMAPs and your thresholds and what you know about how your body responds to food. On those 10 holidays, those 10 single days a year that are holidays, eating differently from your normal eating pattern on any of those days isn't actually going to make or break your health, and it's not going to make or break your IBS. It's not going to upset the apple cart, so to speak. If anything, it's actually just, it's like a little bit of a speed bump or a slight interruption in your normal eating pattern. If you know that you get good results on the low FODMAP diet, you just return to the low FODMAP diet after your little speed hump, and we know that things are going to settle. So that's the really, really good thing about knowing that FODMAPs works for you, is that at any time at all you can return to a low FODMAP diet and things will settle again. So you've kind of removed that frustration or that not knowing, that whole idea of not knowing if or when things are going to settle. So we know that things will settle now, which is a really, really great way, a great thing to keep in mind when you're going into one of these little speed humps or these festival seasons, is that yes, but this is one day, it's one day out of 365, and it's not going to all of a sudden send your IBS into a spin again that you're not going to be able to get out of. So that's something that I just want to put on the table first off, is that keep that in mind as you're going into the season. And I know, look, I'm a really big one for what I call catastrophizing, and that's where you kind of get stuck into the spiral of these negative thought patterns. Things get worse and worse and worse. And sometimes we kind of need to break out of that cycle and change our thought patterns a little bit. So stand back, have a look and say, this is what I'm thinking. Just sort of acknowledge the way that you're thinking and the way that it's making you feel, and then sort of pull back and just put it into perspective a little bit, and say, okay, it's okay that I feel like that. It's normal to feel like this, but how can I reframe that a little bit to perhaps sort of get me out of the spiral that's going on? Because you know what, FODMAP is absolutely not a game of perfect. It's not something that we have to get 100% right 100% of the time. FODMAPs do not cause damage to the body. They're not going to cause long-term issues with health, and they're not going to create things like cancers or anything like that. There's nothing like that to do with FODMAPs. They pass through our body. As they pass through, they make you feel a little bit lousy on the way through, and then they leave the body again, and their effect is gone altogether. So the biggest influence of FODMAPs is the impact on their mental health when we are feeling lousy. And again, like I said, sometimes reframing the way, sort of standing back and saying, okay, I'm feeling like this at the moment, acknowledging that, and then sort of reframing it and saying, how else can I look at this? It can make a real big difference and really help with that mental health. FODMAPs are actually quite good for, or particularly the oligosaccharide FODMAPs, things like onions and garlics and wheat and things like that. They're actually really good for our gut microbiome. So in terms of sort of reframe, if you're getting a lot of bloat, if you have eaten perhaps some of that turkey with the stuffing with some onion or some garlic in it, and you're getting bloated from that, sometimes sort of reframing that and sort of thinking, actually, my gut bugs are having a party today, and that's really good for my gut health and my gut microbiome. Yeah, it's making me feel lousy, but I know but I'm nourishing my gut, and I'm going to feel better again tomorrow as well, can really help. So how we think about these things really makes a really big difference. And in terms of how we're thinking about things and how we're reframing things as well, sometimes it can really help. So if we start out with low FODMAP, and this is what we can eat and this is what we can't eat, and perhaps instead of saying these are things that I can't eat, reframing that a little bit to these are foods that I'm choosing not to eat so that I can look after my body and feel comfortable. Or at the same time, you can say, yes, I am choosing to eat this food, and I know that it will cause me a little bit of bloating or whatever afterwards, but today I'm going to make the choice to eat that knowing what the result is going to be. Or today, you can look at the food and say, actually, I'm going to choose not to eat that today because I don't want to feel like, I don't want the result to be a negative result afterwards. Yeah, so it's that thoughts and those thought patterns and how we think about things is really, really important going into this. I really want to reiterate, we're not going to damage ourselves, and that just one day, Christmas or Christmas Eve or whatever, or New Year's or however you celebrate, that one little speed hump, you're just going to, you pass through that and then just pick up on the other side. And that's not going to upset your journey, and it's not going to throw everything out of whack. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is, now actually just before I jump onto that, I do have a little, this time last year we had the lovely Nina talking to us. So Nina's a dietitian that Marnie and I, actually Nina and I trained together. We went to university together, so we've known each other for many, many years. But Nina's specialty, what she specialises in, is that she works a lot with how people think about food and their relationship with food, and sort of reframing those thoughts in a little bit. So, and Nina is really, so Marnie and I are great with FODMAPs, but Nina's really great with that relationship with food, and that's what she specialises in. We have a wonderful workbook that Nina created for us last year, all about your thought patterns going into the holiday season and managing your IBS sort of in that way. So I'm going to upload that little workbook. It's only sort of 3 or 4 pages, but it really helps sort of put things into perspective. I want to say, if you are somebody who does struggle a little bit with your relationship with food and you're looking for a dietitian who specialises in that area, then shout out to Nina, because that's what she's great at, and Marnie and I highly recommend her to address that side of things. So I'm going to upload that workbook. That's all about, like I said, that's all about how we think about things, how we frame our thoughts, how we're going to go into, how we're going to feel going into the Christmas season. So it's a really useful resource to work through, and actually I've been working through it myself a little bit over the past week, just sort of refreshing myself on how I'm going to feel going into this as well, because as most of you know, this is something that I deal with too. So I decide, and I'm really well aware of what the big difference that thought patterns can make. So the next part of this, what I want to talk about is what to do if you actually do, you're going to choose to throw caution to the wind, you're going to choose to eat a high FODMAP food, or a food that you know you may be sensitive to over the coming weeks. The first thing I want to say is before you go into the day, take a step back and just sit down with yourself and say, what foods are there going to be this season that I actually really, really want to eat? What are my favourite foods? What are the things that I actually don't want to miss out on? What are the things that perhaps food is about more than just numbers and calories and macros and things? Food evokes memories and things like that, and often at sort of this Christmas time of year, there's foods that have a special meaning to us, stuff that makes us feel, or reminds us of perhaps what Christmas was like when we were young, or traditional family traditions and things like that. And maybe there's something that you want to, a tradition you want to pass on to your children, and that's become part of your new family tradition. And food is often a part of that. So sort of sit down with yourself and think, what are some of these things that are really important to me? What do I love the most? What do I not want to miss out on? What foods have a meaning to me, or are important to me in that sort of psychological and that emotional sense of that? Because if it's just not Christmas without pavlova, then it's just not going to be Christmas. And what you might say is, yeah, pavlova is the one thing I don't want to miss out on, because that reminds me of grandma's pavlova when I was a kid or whatever. And so sort of sit down and think, what do I really want to eat, and what do I really want to enjoy this year? The next step of that is that you then turn the page over and think, what foods are there going to be here that actually don't really interest me? We don't all love everything and all the foods about Christmas. And look, it might be, coming from I always often come back to personal experience, but Christmas mince pies, they're around every Christmas, but I actually don't really like Christmas mince pies. I would rather have something else, rather, or a Christmas cake. So yes, they are traditional Christmas foods, and yes, they're always around at Christmas, but the foods that yes, I can eat because I can't eat them at any other time of the year, but I actually don't really enjoy them that much. So do I want to eat them just because they're around, or just because they're a novelty, and not really enjoy them, and then perhaps suffer with some IBS symptoms afterwards? Or do I want to sit back and say, actually, yeah, I'm going to pass up on that one because I know I don't really enjoy that food? So those are two lists to start with. What do you really want to eat, and what's important to you? And what foods do you what foods are you happy to pass up on that actually may not mean something to you? Even if they are traditional Christmas foods, not everybody loves everything. The next thing to think about is, how do I want to feel going into this meal? And again, that's sort of about reframing that mindset and sort of thinking about, do I want to step outside my boundaries today, or do I not want to? And how do I want to feel? What's important to me? What do I want to achieve from this day? And that's how we're going to start. So those are the first things we want to take note of. When you go into the day, so the first thing I'm going to say is, perhaps the day before and the day of, make sure that you sort of return to that baseline low FODMAP diet. So FODMAPs are about thresholds. If this is where your threshold is, if you're sort of plodding along just here under your threshold, it doesn't take much to sort of lift you up and push you over your threshold. Whereas if we return to low FODMAP for a day before, that brings us further down here, and that gives us more room to move before we meet that threshold. So that's going to make quite a big impact on minimizing the results of any perhaps trigger foods or high FODMAP foods that you may want to eat. So really return to that baseline diet for about 24 hours before, to get you as far away from your threshold as possible. On that note, when you get up in the morning, make sure that you do get yourself a really good, sustaining, low FODMAP breakfast. And one of the things that we know can be really helpful with breakfast is that people who include a protein food in their breakfast, often their hunger levels during the day are much more, and their blood glucose levels tend to be much more stable during the day. So what you might do is you might get some low FODMAP toast, perhaps have some eggs with it, and then put some spinach and tomatoes, things on the side, and have yourself a really substantial low FODMAP breakfast. That's going to set you up for the day. That's going to mean that your food decisions are not based purely on hunger. They're based on what you want to eat and what you want to enjoy. We always find that if you are hungry, people that are really hungry are often much less discerning about their food choices. They're often happy just to grab at anything. And when you're hungry, look, our bodies are really effective at making sure that we keep eating, because we need food to live. So when you're hungry, your body enhances your senses of smell and taste and makes you think about food more. So make sure that you don't go into the day hungry, and then you'll sort of remove that push and that desire to be tempted by some of these higher FODMAP foods that you may be able to normally take a leave, but if you're hungry, you're much more tempted by them. So start the day with a really good breakfast. As you're moving through the day, make sure that you've got on hand, make sure you've got plenty of low FODMAP snacks that you can sort of snack on and nibble on through the day. So they're perhaps going to be sort of your base foods to keep away that really strong push of hunger. So it might be that you've got some low FODMAP fruit, you might have some lactose-free or some Greek yogurt, you might have some nuts and things like that. So just sort of low FODMAP stuff that you can nibble on that makes up the sort of baseline of your diet. If you go into the day and you do choose to eat something that may be high FODMAP, or it may be a food, or you may choose to eat it in a serve size that you know is potentially going to be a trigger food for you. Choose your favorites. So look at the table and say, what's my favorite? What don't I want to miss out on? Choose the stuff that you really want to enjoy, and serve yourself a small serve, and pair it with some low FODMAP sides. So if you really want some of that turkey and that stuffing with even though it's got onion and garlic, serve yourself a small serve of that and have it with some potatoes and some carrots, or you might do a barbecue. You might want some of those garlic prawns. I don't know, depending on where you are in the world and what the temperature is will depend on what the food is, but serve yourself a small serve. Then take yourself somewhere nice. sit with somebody that you enjoy spending time with. Really sort of look around yourself, look around the table. So before you eat, sort of sit down and look around and just sort of really appreciate where you are and what's going on. So you might be with family, with friends. It might be a beautiful day. It might be white Christmas. But just sort of look back, observe the food, look at it, look at the people, and think about what a great opportunity this is to spend time with friends and family. Smell the food. So if it's your favorite, obviously I like to so smell it, look at it, and really start appreciating and eating it mindfully. So one of the things that I often think is that we actually don't have any taste buds in our tummy. All our taste buds are in our mouth. And if you're eating a food that you're eating it to get pleasure out of the food, you want to get as much of that pleasure as possible, so that it spend as much time in your mouth as possible, and the smells and the aromas and the textures and the flavors. That's where you get that joy. Once you've swallowed it and it's down in your stomach, the joy or the pleasure of that is gone. So eating it mindfully and smelling it and tasting it and small bites and all of that. Choosing your favorite foods and eating them mindfully. And what we find, or what the research tells us about mindful eating, is that in general, people tend to be more satisfied and they enjoy their meal more, but they also tend to choose smaller serves. So, and of course with FODMAPs, because we know it's all about serve size, if you're having a smaller serve of something, then you're much less likely to push yourself over your threshold than if you have a larger serve. If we're eating it mindfully, then you're going to enjoy it more than if you're not eating it mindfully. So that stuff is a really good, really part of it. Once after you've had your enjoyable meal, of course, then you want to, or actually before I jump here, the other thing is that we know that large meals put pressure on the digestive system as well, and we know that people with IBS do better with smaller meals. So again, those smaller portions, eating them mindfully is going to contribute to helping you manage your day and contribute to helping you get away with more of this as we go along. When it's also take into consideration if it's a lactose containing food that you want to eat, use a Lactase tablet or a lactate tablet depending on what a lactase enzyme. So you can have that pavlova with the cream and the berries on top of it. You take a Lactase tablet with it and that breaks down the lactose. So that smaller serves, but also if you prepare the foods that you're preparing it with, and if it's something like lactose, a lactase tablet can be really helpful for that as well. Where am I up to? Sorry, I've just, I ramble. Checking on my notes. All right, eating it mindfully. After the meal, exercise really, really helps digestion. And I'm not saying that you have to get out there after your meal and run a marathon or kill yourself doing burpees or whatever, but just get outside, go for a walk, maybe throw a ball around with the kids. Just some of that movement to help your body digest and help things work their way through, that can be really helpful as well. Of course, return again to your low FODMAP diet or to your personalized, to your normal diet after the meal, and that's going to bring you back down again to get closer to your threshold. Obviously, if you look, I'm hoping that these tips are going to help you get away without too much upset, because that's the goal. We want people to enjoy their food and enjoy their time without suffering afterwards, because everybody deserves to eat good food and feel good afterwards. That if you do get some symptoms the next day, again, taking a step back, reframing it, instead of, look, I'm a great believer in having a little bit of a pity party if that's what you need. So curl up on the sofa for the day and say, yeah, today I'm just going to take care of myself. But do take care of yourself. If you reframe it a little bit, and instead of sort of letting it go in your head, I feel awful, I feel awful, I feel awful, or why did I do that? Instead of try and reframe it a little bit, sort of think, yeah, I had a really great day yesterday. Today I'm not feeling great, but tomorrow I'm going to start feeling back to normal again. I know that at our next Facebook Live, Marnie's going to talk about managing those symptoms. So going into, if you are going to get symptoms, having a plan of attack of how you're going to manage them again improves that confidence in how you go into it. So I'm going to leave that for Marnie next week. I hope that this has been helpful to you guys. I hope it's been is sort of going to improve your confidence going into this. Like I said, I'm going to upload Nina's workbook after that, so I highly recommend that everybody's downloads it and at least has a look at it. And I think that certainly I get a lot of going through this workbook every so often and working it out for myself. I just haven't looked through it. It doesn't look like there's any questions. So if there are any questions afterwards, then I'll continue to monitor these comments. If you want to start a new thread to discuss something, please do. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. It's been great working with you guys this year. So take care. I hope that you have a lovely few weeks. Of course, we are going to be around, so we're not going to leave you on your own. And then in January in the new year, we will pick up with the next challenges, which I believe will be the polio challenges. So if you want to jump ahead, of course, go for it. But we'll be picking up. So next time, Marnie will talk about managing symptoms. And then after that, we'll be launching into the sorbitol and mannitol challenges and just carrying on and picking up where we left off, because, hey, we can do that. Take care and see you all soon. Bye.